Hello, 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 and welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, I'm super excited about this video today. I'm going to talk about why being delusional is one of the best strategies you can use moving forward right now. And I'm going to explain why it works. I'm going into neuroscience, I'm going into quantum mechanics, explaining why it works and how to do it. Now, the reason why I'm going to explain why it works. Now, we've heard this, be delulu, right? We've heard this everywhere the last couple of years. And there's good reason for it. It's because it actually works. But here's the cool part about it. It's actually rooted in neuroscience and quantum mechanics. Like, this isn't just some lovely theory somebody threw out there. This is actually rooted in how creation and reality actually works. And the reason why I'm going to explain why and how it works, I'm also going to explain how you do it, but why I want to explain how it works is because the world we live in right now has really emphasized the logical mind. Everything is about logic and understanding and the logical brain. And here's the thing, once you understand from a logical basis why it works and how it works, it is easier for you to accept it because you don't have resistance in your brain that's telling you, that's just a silly theory. Okay. And the other part is really to keep emphasizing and bringing back the reality that what we've been taught in this world so much is actually not how creation works. And that's why so many people are in survival mode right now and struggling because everything we've been taught is actually not rooted in quantum mechanics, the rules of the universe, energy. And energy is, ooh, guys, it's like moving forward. This is like everything. Like, it's really now in the now moment and moving forward, it's everything. So I want to keep bringing this back to bring all these principles because it's a big topic. It's a huge topic. But even when you start to bring in little pieces of it and it starts to build a picture, it starts to build a puzzle. And that's when you can quantum leap. That's when you can change your reality. Okay. So I really want to explain again why and how this works. And then how do you actually become Delulu? Okay. But once you understand how it works, you'll understand where this is going. Okay. So first I want to talk about like how you were brought up, how we were all brought up. So you're born into a world and your family, your community, the world told you how to create success, right? This is how reality works. We were told this is how reality works, right? You do this, you do this, you this, and you get here. That's what we created. All these conditions. Like if you want to be successful in life, an example is go to school, get a higher education, get a great job, climb the corporate ladder. That's a narrative. That's a condition of what we've been taught, a lot of us, right? And it's reality. It's a lot of what our parents did and a lot of what we did. I know I did that for the first, few decades of my life as well, right? But what's important to note is that those were just made up rules. Those were just made up conditions, okay? Energetic principles don't actually say that you have to do this to get this. That is a human construct. And see what happens is when you hear something when you are young, it creates like an imprint in you, and that's how you think reality works. And eventually we don't even question it. And then what we do as we go through life is we see evidence that that is how reality works. And so we keep rooted in this belief system, the conditions of how reality works. And all they really are is somebody else deciding how reality works, us buying into it, not necessarily consciously, because we were young, we didn't know. And then it becoming the conditions to which we believe life works. They don't even, believe isn't a strong enough word. We feel like it's the truth. Really. Most people think the way reality works is the truth of what reality really is, but it's not. Energy does not do that. Quantum mechanics does not do that. There are no conditions. There's nothing in quantum mechanics that says, to have this, you must do this or take this step. There's nothing in quantum mechanics that says that the way it does in our 3D reality. You have to have a higher education to get a good paying job. Your resume has to look this certain way. You have to invest, at this time of your life, like all these formulas about how long success is going to take, what it's going to take. Those are just constructs. Those are just somebody deciding this is how reality works. Enough people bought into it. And then we decide this is the truth. Now, what's important to note is with energy, there is cause and effect. Okay, there is a cause and effect, but we don't get to decide it as humans. We don't actually get to decide what the effect is going to be of one of our actions. But we think we do have that ability because that's what conditions are. We decide that if we do this, we'll get this. If we do that, we just have these steps that, we're told are smart, right? We're told this is the way reality works. And I've often reflected on the word delusional. It's not flattering. Somebody who's delulu is not considered smart. They're considered kind of an idiot, right? They're delulu. They're not rooted in reality. Whose reality? Whose reality are they rooted in? Because the truth is, there are billions and billions of realities. Who gets to decide these are the conditions of way life works, of the way reality is created? So I'm going to give you an example of this because I know this is a bit trippy. I know this is a bit confusing. It can be when you first start to hear it. So now imagine that you're looking for a job and you have been looking for a job over the last couple of years. Now, all you have to do is turn on the news or, go on the internet and you'll hear, the economy's doing bad. Obviously, inflation, interest rates, the political unrest, wars, everything, you name it, right? So what the belief is, what the conditioning out there in the world is that it's going to take you longer to find a job. That's the conditioning, okay? That's the condition humans have placed. You look at a bad economy and the assumption is it's going to be harder to find a job. That's it. There's an assumption made there, but make no mistake, that is an assumption. That is not the truth. And you do not have to buy into that truth because that's somebody else's truth. But what happens is, this is what we do as humans, as we've been taught to do, is say you are looking for a job and the economy is bad. So what you'll start to do is you go well, what am I doing wrong? How can I do this differently? So you go to social media, you turn on the news and you hear all the reports. It's taking somebody a year to find a job. It's taking somebody 18 months to find a job. You hear all these stories, okay? And you decide as humans that this is the reality. This is obviously what I'm dealing with right now. This is the reality. And this is the problem I have with data. We use data in the current moment to decide this is how reality is. That is not what data is at all. Data is the result of what people used to believe about how reality actually works. It's a chicken or the egg situation. Okay, rewind that if you need to listen to that again. This is huge, you guys. This is massive. Data is not a reflection of how reality is. It's a reflection of what somebody else thought about reality. They're not the same. They're diabolically different. Now, you can choose to take that data as your own and decide that's how reality is, but that's what most people are doing. They're taking that data and they're going, oh, that's how reality is. And if you were to say to somebody, well, I'm going to find a job in 3 weeks, they're going to go, you're crazy. You can't do that. Look at the jobs. Look at the numbers. What are you doing? You're unrealistic. You're unrealistic. You're delulu. How the hell are you going to do that? Who do you think you are? The numbers you see are somebody else's version of reality. Being delulu, being delusional, is deciding the conditions to which you want reality to exist for you. You get to choose that. You do. That's all delusional is. It's going, this is how I want reality to work for me. And then you take actions, obviously, in coordination with that. This is really what being delusional looks like, and we've seen evidence of this. I want to give you a really big sort of big example. You'll be able to really see this clearly of people who are being delusional. So if you are brought up like me, go to school, get a good job. This is how you create success. You build wealth slowly, blah, 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 right? Well, what have we seen in the last 5, 10 years? We've seen a whole bunch of people in their 20s go, I don't want that reality. I don't want that reality. I'm choosing something different. Go on the internet and create millions. How many multimillionaires in their 20s do we have to see? And we tell ourselves a story. This is what we do as humans. We go, well, it's because, oh gosh, they had connections. They're attractive so they can go online. They had a family that supported them. We tell ourselves all the stories about why we think they were able to create success like that and we weren't, because it makes us feel better, right? Truth is, I mean, some of those might be true, absolutely, but they're not necessarily the reason why they've created success at all. Anybody who's made multi-millions in their 20s at this point didn't have a parent who did that, because that didn't exist. That person decided. They made the decision. No backup plan. No, I'm going to choose this reality unless it doesn't, work for me. They were delusional. They created the conditions with which they wanted to create their reality. This is deep work, guys. This is huge. Because as long as you believe in the conditions to way reality is created that you've been taught, that we were all taught, you're going to stay in a hamster wheel. Because it doesn't matter what you do. If you believe it takes me 20 years to become a multimillionaire, I'm just using an example, it will take you 20 years. It will. You're that powerful. What if you decided that, money comes in when you breathe? What if you just started to decide that money comes to you all the time? And yes, it is going to sound delusional, isn't it? It does. As soon as I said it out loud, it's like, what is that? But what is the other one that says you have to hustle, grind, sacrifice your health, sacrifice your well-being, give all your free time to a job just to scrape by? That sucks. That's not a vibe. But why do we believe that more? Why does that feel more reasonable? Like, what is that? That's conditioning. That's all that is. And this is why I said at the beginning, we need to understand that we were brought up to think these ways were the truth of how reality works. And when you understand energetic principles, you understand that's not how energy works. You get to decide what reality you want to create, how you want reality. It's kind of like the operating system of your reality. That's why I gave an example. So a couple other examples could be, say you find that opportunities don't come your way very often. Okay. Yes, that's been your experience, lived experience. Okay. Lived experience. What if you chose an operating system, like a conditional way of being that aligned to opportunities find me every single day? That's a new condition you place on life. Because here's the thing. If all those conditions were inserted into you as you grew up, because they were, we need to take those ones out and add new ones in. You get to decide. That's what being delusional is. It's throwing away the conditioning of how you were taught and told that reality is created and just creating your own set of rules, your own sense of reality. So how do you do this? Okay. So the sneaky thing about the conditions is they don't always make themselves obvious. Like, because we have these beliefs, because we've been hearing them for so long and believing them for so long, it's not like they're sitting at the front of our consciousness going, this is what you've been running on. So what you want to do is look at your results and look at the story you tell yourself about those results. Okay. So again, say you're trying to find a job and you cannot find a job. Like, chances are there's a condition that says when the economy is bad, it's going to take longer. So, a new reality that you can start to create is I choose to believe that opportunities aligned, give all the adjectives that you want to really add life into it. Opportunities land and come to me every single day. That's the new reality I choose. Now, it's important to also, when you do this, that you create these new conditions that you want to live by, but you also have to live by it, meaning you have to start to take action. So if you're going, aligned opportunities come to me every day and you're sending out 50 resumes a day, there's an incoherence here. You can say all you want that I believe this is my new reality, but if you're taking all the actions that suggest that's not true, there's an incoherence here and it won't work. So your actions have to line up with what you actually state. Now, these are very different from affirmations. I want to talk about this for a minute. This is very different from affirmations. Affirmations can be something like, I am happy, I am wealthy, I am abundant, I am whatever, whatever, right? And I love affirmations, but they're often not used in a way that actually changes things. What we often do with affirmations is we cerebrally try to buy into them. We try to convince our minds this is happening. And with these things, this is a bodily experience, okay? So these are different from affirmations in that you are not deciding on your state. You're not deciding how you are going to feel. You are deciding how reality responds to you. This is a big distinction between this and an affirmation. And it's important to know the difference. Affirmation is just a state of being that you want to inhabit. This is deciding the rules of life. This is how I want my reality to run. And I really want to emphasize that you do get to choose this. And anybody who tells you you don't doesn't understand quantum mechanics. Does not. And so start to say these things like, this is how my reality works. And what I have done and what I find really works too is you can actually acknowledge, you can actually say, this has been my experience so far. Yet I'm choosing this new condition of life. Because here's the thing, what we can sometimes do is we can pick a new condition and we can try to convince ourselves of it. And our brain can be going, but that's not what you've experienced. That's not what you've experienced. That's not what you've experienced. And it can create resistance in you, right? In your body. You'd be like, no, that's not happening. But if we actually say and acknowledge, okay, my experience thus far has been this, and I'm choosing a new reality where I believe this. And that can be the doorway into it. Eventually, you want to change your language and change your frequency about it. But I know that there can be a lot of resistance when you take on something new. And so we want to do everything we can to just reduce the resistance in you. So by acknowledging, well, this hasn't been my experience so far. Okay, cool. Defenses are down. Like, this is so much a part of really transforming yourself, is dealing with this mind that has so much resistance to new things. It's our ego, right? It's our ego. It's meant to keep us safe and, keep us stuck, right? Our minds don't want us to change. So a big part of this is pleasing your mind, making your mind happy so your mind doesn't go, that's not happening. So start to look, where in your life, where are you not getting the results you want, and start to dig deeper. What is the condition that you believe is actually happening? And this is something I really want to point out here, because a lot of people are stuck right now. And I'm going to tell you this is why. When you've been living in the old paradigm, as we all have, where we have all these conditions, and it's all based on hustle, proving, forcing, like really not great ways of being, right? But there's a different way, okay? What often happens is people get stuck in like this middle ground. So they have an awareness life can be different, right? They don't like the hustle. They don't like the proving. They don't like all those things. But they still, on a subconscious level, believe that they work. They don't want to believe that they work, but they do. And this is how you actually change. Because the problem is, if you want to believe that it doesn't work, hustling, but you really do believe it works, you're always going to be in conflict inside of you. Okay, because there's a part of you that goes, I want different. I want more fulfillment. I want more joy, more abundance. But if there's a part of you believing that this is the way reality really does work, the way you were taught, there's a conflict here. And this is why so many people are stuck right now. It's like they're stuck between two worlds. And this is the doorway. This is, well, one of the doorways is you starting to really look at what are the conditions with which you believe reality operates around you. Look at those. And this does take consistency. This is never a one and done. Think of how many years you've been conditioned to believe reality was a certain way. This does take consistency, right? But if you want to change, this is the doorway. Become delusional. Collapse time. This is how you collapse time. This is how you like quantum leaps. You've heard people do this before. They go from debt to making millions of dollars in 10 months. They become delusional about what can happen. They don't go, well, it's going to take 5 years if I start. No, they don't do that. They go, I'm going to create a reality where I can have quantum leaps of success in a micro bit of time. And they become delusional and they just keep solidifying that in their body every single fucking day. When all the doubts come in, they still anchor into that because doubts are going to come in. Hell yes, they are. But they come back and they anchor into the delusion of how they want to create their reality. And reality then moves and it creates and it shifts around because that's how energy works. Once you create a new condition of how your reality works, everything starts to shift around you. And this is how you quantum leap. This is how you collapse time. All right, beautiful soul. I will see you in the next video. Talk to you soon.